I now give the floor to His Excellency, the Ambassador of Namibia, on behalf of the African Group.
Your Excellency, Special Representative Mrs. Wallström, distinguished delegates, I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the African Group. We wish to extend our gratitude and appreciation to you, Madam Co-Chair, Mr. Co-Chair, and the members of the Bureau for the collective efforts regarding the preparations for the Third World Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction. Our aim is to agree on a document for the second phase of the HIOGO Framework for Action on Disaster Risk Reduction through an open and transparent state-led process, ensuring ownership of all based on a second global partnership and international cooperation. This will allow for more concrete and action-oriented implementation of the goals set out for building resilience and enhancing capacities to deal with disasters, particularly in developing countries and especially in the African countries. Co-chairs, the African Group took note of the views and comments of all regional and other stakeholders' meetings and is pleased to inform that extensive inputs are being suggested to bring balance to the contents of the Zero Draft. The African Group would like to highlight some concerns on the current Zero Draft, which we believe should be incorporated in the final outcome document. First, the need for a clear differentiation between developed and developing countries throughout the document. The current linkage between disaster risk reduction and conflict situations, the group stresses on the importance of not expanding the scope of the document and stick to the existing definitions of hazards and disasters. The linkages between disasters and climate change, in which the group stresses on the importance to clearly mention that climate change issues are dealt with under the UNFCCC and according to specific principles. The lack of clarity on the important role of means of implementation provided to developing countries as a key enabler for the full and effective implementation of our common vision as reflected in the new document of disaster risk reduction post-2015. The Africa Group believes that health should be a central component of a post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction that provides for and enables action to achieve significant reduction in health risks and the effects of emergencies and disasters. Co-chairs, it is a known fact that as a result of widespread poverty and lower resilience, people in developing countries are more affected by disaster risks. It is the African Group's belief that the focus of disaster risk reduction policies and strategies should be premised on the provision of support to developing countries, particularly African countries, to allow for relevant, adequate and concrete action at national, regional and local levels and strengthening international cooperation. In this regard, our emphasis is placed on building of resilience amongst the effective communities. Co-chairs, the outcome of the fifth African Regional Platform and the third Ministerial Meeting for Disaster Risk Reduction, which took place in Abuja, Nigeria from 13 to 16 May 2014, which conceived a ministerial declaration and a summary statement relative to Africa's contribution to the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction, reflects Africa's commitment to disaster risk reduction with the principal objective of achieving resilience. It is underscored that disasters would require the operationalization of transboundary policies and strategies that require the involvement of all national, regional and local levels to formulate and implement disaster risk reduction actions such as early warning systems. Africa's contribution to the post-2015 framework is concrete and action-orientated, premised on four principal pillars and goals, namely, 1. Enhancing local and regional actions to effectively deal with disasters, including the identification of regional risk factors and the establishment of regional institutional frameworks. 2. Ensuring coherence between disaster risk reduction and climate change via common and coordinated data collection and national scientific and bureaucratic institutions, applying ecosystem-based approaches to sustain healthy ecosystems, thereby ensuring that the positive spin-offs from the recovery from disasters is translated into resilience building and sustainability. 3, enhancing investments in disaster risk reduction by strengthening the technical capacities of institutions and funding mechanisms, including the creation of public-private partnerships, and finally, enhancing commitments by focusing on capacity and institutional building and enhanced engagement. Co-chairs, the Africa Group believes that our work and the outcome thereof must be reflective on issues relative to the differentiation aspect between developed and developing countries. We are especially concerned about the vast gaps in capacity, the means of implementation, particularly technical assistance in terms of technology transfers, research, finance, and enhanced actions at national levels, amongst others. The work should be reflective of a genuine commitment for enhanced implementation, which should incorporate institutional cooperation, education, and public awareness. In conclusion, the African Group reiterates that the outcome of this meeting should also reflect on possible initiatives to avail data and support similar to that of the Global Framework for Climate Services and the Global Earth Observation Initiative. Mindful of the numerous concerns in the Zero Draft that we are bound to negotiate, we have to raise the bars, interrogate and illuminate this document to be more transparent and balanced in the best interest of all our communities. In closing, the African Group is looking forward to discuss the draft elements of the Sendai Declaration by Japan. I thank you, co-chairs.
I thank Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Namibia,